Reality's alluring highway is looming just ahead.
We're about to leave the plane of the easily explained, the couldn't possibly be's, and the no way I just saw what I saw's, for the spaces and places where everything is possible, and if you stay long enough, even probable. We're about to take a journey into the outer realms.
Streaming live on Three Beards podcast as well.
All right, very good. Welcome, Three Bearders. Hey,
yes.
Kate. Hi, all the bearders. So a couple of, just to frame this real quick, I have two data points. Oxfam, who kind of looks at global wealth and poverty and all this kind of stuff, reports that 1% of the population owns 43% of the world's assets. That's pretty stunning. And 5 corporations own 90+% of social media and global media and entertainment. And as you're going to see tonight, pretty much any major pillar of society or the way the world functions is owned by a very, very few companies.
And it's really weird too, especially with that aspect, like you're talking about the media. It's just, not delving on the political side of it, but when you have one side, which is, Democrat leaning, especially they have control of the mass, like you said, probably could easily 80-90% of the media markets, just cable, radio, all these things. But this one little piece, and they freak out that they can't control, they act like this is the one that's stopping, that this is a danger to everything. It's like, no, the danger is that everything is in the hands of a select few. It should be, what we're doing right here is how it should have been. The old printing press, somebody printing a pamphlet, handing that out. That's what it was supposed to be, not these gatekeepers that we control the information and we decide what is misinformation, what is the real information. Here's the official document that you must read. And that's what it's coming out to be.
Oh, yeah.
It's just, we've all seen it. You say the wrong thing here on Facebook, we're going to get popped.
Yeah. And I'm seeing more and more people, good people, just writing books about interesting things, trying to sell some books, trying to get the word out. And they're going, Facebook blocked me and I have no idea why. And when Into the Outer Realms got hacked, we solved it, Craig, within 10 minutes. We solved it within 10 minutes, and Into the Outer Realms was like in jail or shadow banned for like 4 or 5 months.
Yeah, because you guys, wasn't it some jihad type thing?
Yeah, it was a Middle Eastern terrorist or Turkish terrorist, but we took it down immediately. And it was because Tanya had gotten hacked, and I immediately removed her as an admin. This all happened within like 15 minutes. And it took 5 months for us to kind of come back out of the shadows. So it's crazy. So a lot of what we're talking about tonight has to do with, you'll see that they own these companies. They're majority or own a lot of stock. So I want to start with I want to leave the juiciest meat for sort of the center of the sandwich. And the buns, I guess, will sort of be Blackstone and Vanguard. So let's start with Blackstone. Blackrock, Blackstone, very similar names. We're all part of the same group. In 1985, it was founded by someone named Stephen Schwarzman. Stephen Schwarzman is still around. He's still heavily involved in Blackstone. And this cat, through salary, incentives, stocks, makes between $300 and $700 million a year, Craig.
Mm-hmm.
Nuts. He's the CEO, chairman of the board, and the founder. In June 2007, this is what this guy says. This was his view on the financial markets. This is in June of 2007. Then the 2008 financial crisis hits, which was really nothing more than a consolidation of central banking. all figured out ahead of time who was going to fall, Lehman, Goldman Sachs, all that kind of thing. This was his view. I want war, not a series of skirmishes. I always think about what will kill off the other bidder. There you go. That's the philosophy right there. He's a staunch Republican on one hand, but was instrumental in helping Obama when it came time to, not enough people talk about this, Craig, but right after the financial crisis, Obama enacted a bunch of things, and suddenly our credit cards went from 10 or 11% interest overnight to 15, 18, 20. Now some people are paying 30% interest. I have a pristine credit score. I'm in the 800s. My credit cards are between 15 and 20%. Never have missed a payment.
No, it's like mine. I'm an 818 score, and I just bought a Bronco, and the best we could get was 7.8%.
Yeah. On a new Bronco?
Yeah, on a brand new car. Yeah. And it's, like I said, with the stellar credit, and it's by, and that's one of the things that we'll kind of get into. It's like these companies, basically the best way to phrase this for a lot of people is these companies on the surface, they look completely inert. They look like just your normal investor thing. We're trying to, you look at all the buzzwords. We're trying to do these, you get all the current buzzwords. We're bringing this. We're looking to maximize the profits for our investors. To improve their life. It's just the thing. You look at all the videos and stuff. It's all happy stuff. But the thing is, when you peel away the happy layer, you start realizing that there is a rotten core that is starting to develop, and it's starting to get more and more. And then because it's one of those, what movie was that? What was it said? Like power, where it's like power corrupts.
Oh,
I know that's one of the things. I know money. I know it's like greed is good.
Oh, Wall Street.
Yeah, there's one, and there's another one. It's like power corrupts. Maybe somebody can remember that line.
Yeah. So anyway, this guy, right, who's the head of this giant financial investing juggernaut, is also a member of the International Advisory Board of the Russian Direct Investment Fund. Craig, someday we should just do a show where we go, China and Russia are enemies, but let's look at the laboratories. Let's look at all the levels of cooperation, right? Here's this guy, a major American investment firm sitting on the Russian Direct Investment Fund.
Well, that's where it's funny that you just said that, because that's one of the things that when people if you actually start digging into these things, you can actually see the game being played, because they're supposed to be enemies. Well, how is it supposedly that these people are enemies, but yet we have people that were high in the medical field advising presidents that seem to be able to go freely to the enemies and work on laboratories, do these things that, and this stuff comes back and forth. I go, they really, so you see that there's actually, it's that thing. There's two games being played. There's the one, we always say it, the magician's hand. You're seeing this thing where, hey, Russia's bad. Look what they're doing over here. Meanwhile, they're funneling stuff back and forth and research projects.
Yep. So Charles mentions monopolies are anti-capitalist. So it makes me think of, I got an email 2 days ago that Spectrum was going to be doing some work overnight. And I posted it to Craig and another friend of ours. And the friend said, yeah, AT&T, bought Spectrum. So they're doing a changeover. AT&T, remember, I think it was in the 1980s when they busted the monopoly, broke it up. It was huge news. AT&T now controls, I think, 97% of the internet market. Sounds like a monopoly to me.
Yeah,
we've gone so backwards instead of forwards.
Yeah, it's just like it's completely, they've reabsorbed everything else again. I wish I had the numbers in front of me. I want to say somebody said that they're actually controlled more than they did before they were broken up.
Oh,
now, even in the phone market too. Yeah, that they're.
Yeah. Yeah, and Ryan Reynolds sold his little experiment. I guess.
Mint Wireless.
Yeah.
Right. That's a whole nother thing. You want to talk about somebody who touches stuff and he's got the Midas touch.
Oh yeah.
I mean,
Oh, yeah.
he's one of those that there's nothing sinister that I can tell about Ryan Reynolds.
No, he's a good guy. He is a good
Yeah,
guy,
that's
and I was disappointed when I heard that he sold it.
yeah, but it was one
So,
of those. That's kind of what he does. It's like he works, he improves the culture of the business. He goes, I guess, and then he makes it, and then he's off to his next venture.
yep, he's
Yeah.
in a little bit of a battle with Disney. Speaking of, in 2006, this Stephen A. Schwartzman, who is Blackstone, puts together a team of corporate executives to advise Trump. So he was with Obama, then he comes over to Trump. This is really what people call the deep state, right? This is just
Yes.
right. And we're going to talk about that a lot tonight. JP Morgan Chase's CEO, JB Diamond, is on it. Disney's Bob Iger is on it. Former General Electric CEO Jack Welch, who destroyed the Lee Iacocca model of reinvest in your workers, educate your workers, take care of your workers. Jack Welch said, hey, guess what? At the end of every fiscal year, I'm going to fire 10% of my executives. That sounds like that. I want war, not skirmishes. I'll kill off the bitter.
Yeah.
Jack Welch used to make his executives like their kids in a sorority figure out who's going to make the cut at the end of the year.
Yeah, that's pretty much what it is. I mean, you could see at that point, that's where a lot of these companies, they went from being where business has never been, how do I make all the employees' lives better? It's always been, the whole point you go into business is to make money. Everybody does it. Whether you're making t-shirts at a farmer's market, you want to make money to, support yourself. These guys, you can see that the model started changing to where it's one of those where why pay somebody 30 when I can pay 215?
Yeah.
And it was more about how to maximize the production at the same time as minimizing your costs. And it's just, you can just see this downward decline in the work culture. That's why a lot of loyalty is gone. And that's where you see, that's kind of what I said a few minutes ago. That's where you start to see some of these companies, they're starting to rot on the inside. You can start seeing things of turning bad.
Yeah, absolutely. And it really is that Jack Welch philosophy, corporate buybacks, golden parachutes, multiples of gap between what a CEO makes and what a typical worker makes in the company, right? Total overvaluement of CEOs. I'm just going to say it right now. Overvaluement of CEOs. But anyway, so what does Blackstone do? Well, they're all about equity investments in real estate, private equity, hedge funds, and all that kind of stuff. They are one of the largest global real estate investors. They are in office buildings. That's corporate office space, Craig, is in serious crisis.
Yes.
Since the social experiment, retail and residential properties. So let's enlighten everybody and sort of take back the truth. There's a certain independent presidential candidate who I was supporting, who I'm no longer supporting after his bullshit vice presidential pick. Let's bring in a billionaire to pay my way, even though they represent everything that I seem to be fighting against. But anyway, he went on record, started speaking truth to power, and said, oh, Blackrock is the reason that there's a housing shortage. Blackrock is the reason that you can't afford a house. And everybody said, you're an idiot. Blackrock isn't even in that game, because it was Blackstone. Yeah. His truth was right. He got the second half of a 2-syllable word wrong. So let's set the record straight. Blackstone is the one behind these venture capital companies who swoop in when properties become available and pay cash and outbid, the millennials and, us middle-aged clawing to stay in the middle class people. So I wanted to clear that up, Craig.
Yeah, no, that's one of those, for anybody that's not, that when you look into it, like Blackstone's involved in hotel chains, like I said, they're going to, like, one of the ones that there's the Hilton chain and stuff. They've got in this, and they really started expanding. I mean, just like you watch anybody that sees like a new subdivision that's built, you'll see like instantly, like, 10, 15, 20 of the lots are bought. They're just bought. It's companies like this that are buying these things up. And it may not be just Blackstone, because they have to kind of break it up so that way they don't end up being, starting to look like the monopoly, like, hey, we got to control this thing. But what that does is that's what makes it to where somebody like Joey or me can't afford to live in an area now because it raises property values. And then I don't want to jump ahead, so smack me down if I'm getting here. But this is where it falls into stuff like you've seen, like Klaus Schwab. It says you won't own anything and you'll be happy about it.
Yeah.
Well, this is the dangers of it, because they tell you on the surface thing, it would be nice to not have to worry about housing, food, everybody's like, who wouldn't want this? Well, then you realize, just like the company stores, you're becoming a slave to the system, to where you have to do what's, we've talked, I think it was last show we talked about it, your social credit score.
Yeah.
These things are going to determine whether or not you can stay in this housing, or you can stay, you can actually get that apartment that you want, because they're going to start looking and say, yeah, Joey's a loose cannon, man, that Craig's loose cannon. I'm pretty sure we're not going to be able to give them this, this unit that they're looking at. And it's, yeah. And that's one of the things that a lot of people, you don't realize, is these companies are involved. I mean, we'll get into Blackstone. I mean, but that's one of the dirty things, is that they're buying up the stuff, but it's through, it looked like it was innocuous at the beginning, but it actually, you can start seeing that it looks like this is a plan, because some of these, it's all an ancestral thing anyway. I mean,
well, that's what it is. Yeah.
The chairman of the board for Hilton is one of the people that's involved in Blackstone too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, they're everywhere. Their tentacles are everywhere. So let me just finish up real quick with Blackstone. Yep. We'll move on. So not only are they into real estate, private equity, hedge funds, and all that, technology, healthcare, consumer goods, financial services, energy, transportation, utilities, pharmaceuticals, biotechnology, and healthcare services. These are the people, and this was falsely reported, so everybody laughed it off. It is Blackstone that owns 75% Ancestry.com. Hey, we're not going to sell people's data. We're just going to spend all this freaking money to be 3/4 owners of a company that, we're not going to exploit.
Yeah.
Which I find super, super hard to believe. So I'd like to actually, Craig, you have anything else on Blackstone?
Not really. I mean, just other than just they really, they've really gotten stuff like in trouble with. One of the things that they've been linked to is Amazon forest deforestation.
Yes.
For the stuff, illegal child labor, and these are one of those things they played off. It's like, this is kind of where a lot of these corporations, it's the plausible deniability. When you compartmentalize all these things, you can have, this division, so the major corporation could say, well, we had no idea that they were using underage kids, involved in these, these cleaning services and stuff. How would we have known that this one over in Oshkosh, was using, these 14, 15-year-olds to clean how could we know this?
Yeah. Plausible deniability.
Yeah. And so, Bob gets fired because he's the one that takes the rap for it, type of stuff. And meanwhile, they keep just going on doing the same thing, raking in the money, and just keep buying and buying and just keep growing and growing. I mean, it's pretty bad.
Meanwhile, Bob gets pushed off to another division. He's taking care of it. He gets a nice fat bonus for taking one on the chin. Look at this. Condo where I live jumped 300% in price. That's not normal market fluctuation.
No, that's because you have these corporations that are buying up thousands. They call them units. They don't even call them homes. Yeah. They'll call up these developers and say, I need 20 units. Developers like, hell yeah, they don't care. That's their whole point of selling these homes. They don't care what happens afterwards. And now you go from having a $1,500 rent to $3,500 per month to rent a house.
Great. So I want to push off Blackrock a little. Let's do Vanguard. One of the things that strikes me about Vanguard, and I'm a rebel and I'm a pirate, so I notice these things. Their symbol is an old style 3-masted sailing ship.
Yeah.
It immediately reminds me of, and I hate to use all these catchphrases that everybody's using, but settler colonialism, empire, slavery. Like maybe it's time to let go of the three-mast ship. That's the time, Craig, of the East India Company, the Dutch East India Company, the Royal African Company. These were the first multinationals. They ran their countries. People who are familiar with the Pirates of the Caribbean series, the East India Company comes up all the time. Absolutely evil. The Opium Wars were all orchestrated by them, and this is really a return to that. Blackrock is the East India Company of its time. Vanguard is. It's hard. If you're wondering about State Street, I wrote this down because I was doing some research today. BlackRock owns them. Their largest shareholder is Vanguard. So the lines are super blurred between these mega corporations. And what I found, Craig, was even though BlackRock, and we'll talk about this, in 1985 left the financial umbrella that was Blackstone, they pass companies back and forth all the time. Mm-hmm. They make packages so I think it's a way to, not that I think the regulators have any power over these companies, they don't. But it's a way to shuffle things up and keep things in the shadows and make a guy like RFK Jr. say stupid crap like BlackRock did this. And it's like, sorry, sir, but it was Blackstone. You're a moron. I mean, how convenient.
And that's the thing is you've got like 2008. That was one of the things that really crashed this thing is because it was the same thing. They were just buying and selling this bad debt.
Yeah.
And just making it. Yeah, just doing all these packages and you were just buying these packages just because, that's how it was just sold multiple times. I mean, I want to say it was early 2003, 2004 when we bought our house. And I think within a 2 years time, I want to say our mortgage was sold 4 times.
Yeah, that's crazy.
It seemed like every time we turned around, we were getting another one like, hey, we now make a payment to blah, blah, blah. And these were subsidiaries of these corporations.
Yeah.
And so, and it's one of those, and it's done by design because if one fails, then, it's not too big to fail. You have these things. I mean, because Vanguard, like we're talking about here, their assets that are under management, you'll see these, whenever you look them up, it's called AUM, assets under management, $8.1 trillion as of 2022. So, it's gotten bigger.
Yep.
But so $8.1 trillion, that is almost double our GDP.
Yeah.
And and you start seeing, this is just this one company. And when you start talking like Blackstone, BlackRock, you start getting these ones, you start realizing these guys have power. It's not just imagined power. They have physical power. They can walk into a Senate thing and say, hey, if you want, we can direct this thing and it will actually crash economies.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, they have BlackRock has a bigger GDP than every other country in the world except the US and China.
Yeah.
And what we're going to unpack with BlackRock, we'll move quickly through Vanguard. Vanguard was started in 1975 by a guy named John C. Bogle, fairly milquetoast. And in the past 50 years, every 10 or 11 years, it changes hands. And all these people are very milquetoast, Craig. It's like Vanguard. Yeah. Nobody owns Vanguard. The people who invest in Vanguard, own Vanguard. They make about $30 billion a year. That was up 2021. So that's probably well up. Their major holdings include Amazon, Tesla, Berkshire Hathaway. I never saw Berkshire Hathaway real estate signs. And now they're everywhere. And I think this is why.
That's almost one. He almost could have been added into this thing because everybody's the Oracle of Omaha. He's always been touted as this genius. Well, one of these things he really does, and if you actually pay attention to some of his trades, you could actually go out. You allegedly, we're going to use this word. You could allegedly accuse of insider information.
Mm-hmm.
Because one of the biggest ones was his purchase of the railroad. a few years ago, where he bought this major stake in one of the railroad companies, and it wasn't even a couple weeks later that a federal bill was passed that was greatly benefited this railroad area, and all of a sudden, boom, this investment's worth a whole lot of stuff. We're like, okay, you're either an absolute genius that could you could read the tea leaves, or you had somebody saying, hey, we got you were ensuring that this stuff you were predetermined outcome.
I don't think we're going out on the limb by saying it's all insider trading.
Yeah, I mean, some of it's one of those. I don't want to get anybody alleged.
Yeah, that senators and Congress people prior to the social experiment in 2020 invested in, that they then made a ton of money on. There's also a very strange thing that certain industries in Israel a couple of days prior to the Gaza attack, right, coming over the border attack, money moved in really, really interesting ways, a lot of money. So when you control everything, when you control the playing board and you set how things are going to go, that's insider trading.
Yeah,
it comes along with it because you're deciding what's going to happen.
Yeah, it's crazy.
It is. So Vanguard kind of came into the market because they do these things called index funds, exchange traded funds. And when you open up your 401k or whatever, it comes in your SEP. I happen to have a SEP. You open it up, there's a list of all these companies. It's very diversified. It's low to medium risk. It's very much a long game. And it's all things that are packaged and shifted.
Yeah, I'd almost guarantee that most people, that if you have investments, somewhere down the line, you've either had a Vanguard fund, or you've done something. Because I know for a fact, I think I might even have one. One of my ones might be through Vanguard, but it's one of those things. It's like you said, you're like, oh, he's part of it. No, it's when you have somebody that's, like you said, assets are at $8.1 trillion. That's part of this thing. It's like you bundle. I don't want to get too much in the weeds here, but it's one of those. It's kind of like investing. If each one of us just put in $100 into the thing, we're not going to get a lot of returns. But if each one of us that's listening, every one of us, all pooled that same money and then invested it, now we're going to get this higher rate of return. And that's what's going on with Vanguard. They own so much. I mean, even at 1%, if you just did a simple thing, 8.1 trillion at 1%, I mean, it's a god awful amount of money that you're getting in return. Where if you just did individuals, so that's why I said it's not sinister just in the fact of they've got this thing. It's what they do with that power. That's the sinister part of this.
Yeah. And we're really going to illuminate it with Blackrock. So they are one of the Vanguard. This is one of the majority shareholders of 23andMe. And I had to dig a little to do that. That's not known, but I was like, okay, so if Blackstone owns majority shares in Ancestry, who owns majority shares in, and so I found it. It took me a little while. Also, too, Craig, I know you've talked about this on Three Beards. They are all full of environmental, social, and governance mandates.
Yep, DEI.
So this whole social populism science in order to control the game board, take away people's property for the good of the economy and this and that and all the other things. You're in a state that's very actively fighting these kinds of things. Let's just say that. Florida. I think that's part of the reason why you can always see when somebody is just being absolutely just targeted. That there's something. Even for RFK's, his failings and stuff. He's got some good point because of just when everybody's attacking you, that you're upsetting. You're upsetting the cart. Oh yeah. And they push him through the ringer. And let's be clear. Maybe I don't blame him for going with billionaire ex-wife of Sergey Brin at Google, because she's going to pay his way. She's paying his way. That's what she's doing. But I can support it. And her current dude, who she had a handfast ceremony with at Burning Man, her current dude, is all into a digital platform that I don't support because I think it's going to be corrupted and nefarious. And so, I'm trying to talk gaps here, but you leaned in like you wanted to say something.
No, Stretching.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
This is interesting, guys. I'll put this up on the screen. You can read it. It's a little long, but go ahead and read it while we're talking here. So let's please get back into Blackrock. This guy's name is perfect. It was founded in 1988 by Larry Fink, and he is a Fink for sure. No offense to my aunt, whose maiden name is Fink, but in this case, and 6 others. So, Craig, part of my assignment this week was I researched those 6 others, and there's really only 2. The rest of them, nothing to see here. One guy is called Hugh Frater, former CEO of Fannie Mae. Oh, the college debt crisis. Thank you, Hugh Frater. Thank you, Hugh Frater. And then this other guy, Ralph Schlosstein, co-founder, head of something called Evercore. I don't know if people have heard of Evercore, but I was like, Evercore, what is that? Mergers and acquisitions powerhouse. When big companies merge and acquire other companies, this guy heads it up. And of course, he's still involved with Blackrock. So, of course, this is that whole consolidation thing. It's what 2008 was about. It was about the Federal Reserve changing their philosophies. I think around 2015, 2016, to go to a different way of doing things. So BlackRock started 1988 when they divest from Blackstone as a small bond investment management firm. But then in a relatively short amount of time, 40 years, has grown into the world's largest asset manager, overseeing trillions of dollars in assets. So I said, well, how the hell did this happen? It started really in 2003, which means they've only been a powerhouse really for 2 decades. Big Merrill Lynch mergers and real estate deals. Their assets under management is $9 trillion. That was as of 2022. Annual revenue greater than $20 billion as of 2021. Craig, that's got to be shooting through the roof. I'll tell you this, as of November 2023, so less than 6 months ago, they have stakes in 1,600 multinational corporations and stakes in another 5,349 companies in more than 30 countries. They are in tech, they are in finance, they are in healthcare, and they are in energy. Those are the big ones. I'm sure they're in there somewhere with pharma. Oh, yeah, majority stakeholders in Johnson & Johnson. Their jab crapped the bed pretty good. But they wanted in on the game, right? So they are big holders of Apple, Microsoft, NVIDIA, which means AI, Alphabet, which of course is Google, JP Morgan Chase, their friends. Although Larry Fink and Jamie Dimon are playing this good guy, bad guy game with Bitcoin, right? Jamie Dimon's like, we're not going to touch it, whatever. And BlackRock's all in, like we're going to talk about. And Meta. So all of these social media companies, all of which were funded and started by the CIA's In-Q-Tel, which is their venture capitalist arm, when Congress said, no, we're not going to crunch big data under the umbrella of DARPA, outsource this crap. That's how all these companies started. And BlackRock has a huge voice in every single one of them.
Oh, yeah, they're even tied to the Federal Reserve.
Yeah. Oh, big time. Yeah. Yeah. And I have some examples of that. Let's see here. What does Charles say here? January 21st, 2010, Supreme Court issued a ruling in Citizens United versus Federal Election Commission. Yeah. And that's all about money. Who can give it, how much they can give. As a vice presidential candidate, Shanahan is unlimited in the amount of money that she can give.
Well, because you can give of your own money, you can give yourself as much as you want.
Yeah.
And that was part of it. It was kind of like it felt like I said, I don't like doing this because it just feels like you're delving on the political side. It it checks off all the boxes. She's female. She's she's an executive. So she's got all. She's got successful. She's got money to help fund the campaign. You just go through. That's what it seemed like. It was just. It wasn't so much maybe that she was the best one available. It was just more like she fit all the criteria. To help us out at the time.
The big one is paying the bills. Bloomberg did it when he ran for president. Steve Forbes did it. You can spend as much of your own money as you want.
Mm-hmm.
And Trumpy will spend other people's money and call it his own money. So, that's his game. So BlackRock is into investment management, risk management, and advisory services. They play, and I italicize this in my notes, they play a significant role in shaping financial markets. That's why I say, Craig, when you control everything, when you move all the pieces on the board, it is all insider trading.
Mm-hmm.
There are no surprises. No stock wins unless you want it to win and unless you're going to get a piece of it. So here's where it gets ugly, guys. This is the time to maybe turn up your volume a little. And if you're multitasking, to really kind of pay attention. BlackRock is the largest investor in weapons manufacturers pretty much in the world. U.S. aerospace, defense. Bloomberg, speaking of Michael Bloomberg, Bloomberg News Organization calls them the fourth branch of the government because of their relationship with the central banks. This does distinguish them from everybody else. Craig, and you mentioned it, the Federal Reserve, right? The central banks, not federal, not a reserve. We did a great show on it. BlackRock's relationship with these guys is very unique. Hard to play the investment game in a sort of fair, traditional way when you're hand in glove with the banks. So
that's absolutely.
Yeah. So BlackRock and JP Morgan Chase are together helping the Ukrainian government, and this goes to a memorandum of understanding December 2022, to set up a reconstruction bank. And some people go so far as to say that basically Ukraine has relinquished its state sovereignty basically to BlackRock and JP Morgan.
Unless I got it, like I said, unless I got it wrong. I mean, basically they've set up the bank to do the reconstruction.
Mm-hmm.
So they're involved with the weapons manufacturing. So we have taxpayers that are buying these weapons, sending them to Ukraine. Ukraine's using this money. So this money is being basically BlackRock is in sense funneling taxpayer cash into their own coffers.
Yeah.
Through the guise of, I said they're doing this. So you're basically, it's almost legalized money laundering is what is basically happening now for these things. They've got it set. It was kind of the way Monsanto, when it was involved during the Iraq War, where the only people that could, the only seed that the people could use for crops was their proprietary seeds.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. It has long been understood that it is unethical and oftentimes illegal to create a problem that you benefit monetarily from, and then you benefit from the solution. So to create something like a Roundup that causes cancer, then you buy the pharmaceutical company that creates the treatment for the cancer. Not opposed to do that.
And like this, in this instance, they did. This is what I think on the surface, it's you really can't say that they've done anything wrong because they're invested in this side. They don't run the board of this company who sells the weapons to here. They don't control that one. We're doing this thing because we're trying to help the people of Ukraine rebuild their country. So we're doing here. Well, it just so happens that the Zelensky administration puts money in these things. I don't have control over that. Yeah. I'm setting this thing up. The money's coming here. We can go out as a thing as a company and say, well, we didn't know these things, when in fact it's right there. I mean, it's just, but they have that. We're back again to that plausible deniability, where you've got, I can say, I know nothing.
Yeah. There's two things I was thinking of, Craig, and it's really history repeating itself, or this is the new face of this. which is why it was important to do this show. Way back when it was the banking cabal, right? The Vatican bankers and these bankers and the Rothschilds and all this kind of stuff. In the 1960s, Robert Anton Wilson wrote the Illuminati series, and he wrote the Cosmic Trigger series, talking about all this stuff. Robert Calvi being hung in London under the Vatican's banker. It was all a game of money laundering, and that is basically where we are. That's exactly basically where we are today.
Yeah, I wish I could attribute this to somebody. I wish I remember who did this. I was listening to it. When the Roman Empire fell, it became the church. The Roman Empire never went away. It just became the church.
Yeah.
When the
Third Reich wasn't defeated either.
Yeah, and when the English Empire fell, they became the bank.
Yeah. And
so, and that's what I said, is I'm trying to remember this part, and they said, they've kind of talked about the American Empire, where we've done this thing, and they said the part we don't know is what we're going to morph into. You're not going to go away, just like how, when the Roman Empire collapsed, but Rome never went away. It just became the church. London never went away. It became the banks. So what does America become? America and that's when you figure out, it's like, what was that? It's like the thing. It's just, and it was really interesting. It's wonder if it's something to do with like this, the real estate side. If it has to do with land, if it has to do something like that, because that's a common theme between these Blackrock, Blackstone, Vanguard, is a lot of these things, they're tied into the actual physical property side of it.
Yeah. Yeah. It could be, my feeling is through Operation Paperclip. And I have to thank my friend Michelle, who's watching the show tonight, for turning me on to that. Over 2,000 people who came in were at the highest levels of, you and I have done Project Paperclip, and you think of 3 generations of interceding. I don't think the Third Reich went away. I think we're living in the Fourth Reich, and Klaus Schwab over at the WEF, he's sort of the head of it, It could have been just like what I just said between about Rome and English. That could have been, the right, like I said, the Reich. This, it may not even be like what they were saying with America. It could actually, that actually might what it be. The Reich actually didn't go away. It just became what's above us. Yeah.
It just you have this collective thing where they realize that more can be done behind the scenes. The thing, and that's where the true control is.
Right. And that was the other thing that I was thinking, right? So there's Albert Pike and the Illuminati, and that all the major wars were staged, and World War III was going to be staged. It's a famous letter that he wrote. But that's what we're seeing. We're seeing when the world's largest investment firm is heavily invested in weapons, annihilating a country, and then building. I usually have nothing at all nice to say about former governor, certain current senator, at least for several more months, Joe Manchin of West Virginia. But I had a pretty good amount of access to him just through different things I was doing. And he was talking about in Iraq, he was like, our own people can't get high-speed internet. And we're setting all this stuff up, on the heels of the war, the Gulf Wars, right? The building houses, doing all this kind of stuff. And that really opened my eyes. I also want to say, too, that at least since 2016, BlackRock is extremely active in Israel. So as you watch all of this unfold, Joe Biden called Benjamin Netanyahu today. I would love to be a fly on the wall. Anybody who has to listen to Honey Joe. And Joe goes, listen, it's really unacceptable for you to be killing civilians and all that. They have these conversations, and Benjamin Netanyahu doesn't have to take Joe Biden seriously because he's answering to another authority. He thinks he's answering to, a GOD authority. But he's really answering to these major investors. Don't you think, Greg, or do you disagree?
Yeah. Well, I was just, as you were saying that, I was just thinking, and I didn't do this thing. Have you heard through your research? Did you find, is any of these companies involved in trying to get the rebuild contracts for Gaza?
Not so far. I think it's a little early for that. I think
because that would be if we want to go down the conspiracy rabbit hole here. wouldn't that be one of the things that would make sense of why this would happen?
Yeah. But
Is
now our
because
audience can watch it in real time because they know to
because
look for it.
I mean, if
Yeah.
anybody thinks about it, it's not hard to stoke. We already know the Palestinians want Israel wiped off the face of the earth. That's in the charter of Hamas. And they're not. It's not like 30% popularity. I mean, majority of the Palestinians are in open support of this. So it's not hard to foment anger. So you get the same. They know Israel is going to retaliate. Well, now you've set, like you said before, we've set the problem. Now we already have the solution in mind. Well, we're going to swoop in, and that's why I said I'm wondering if one of these, if any of these ones are involved, because now what do you have there in Gaza? You have a moonscape in some areas.
Oh, yeah.
You have a prime thing where you can swoop in and you can build whatever you want on this leveled land.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's kind of from what happened.
Yeah.
I'm sure one of these was involved in the one of the funds.
Yeah.
That would be financing it. Yeah.
Yeah. When you own 1,600 multinational corporations and another 5,349, there's got to be a major construction thing in there. I also looked at Maui, and I could not. I saw who has the major contracts. It's an outfit out of California. Their name escapes me right now. I could not find a tie between them and Blackrock or one of these groups here. Craig, you remember when we did the Federal Reserve and J.P. Morgan, the government came to J.P. Morgan and said, "Would you please bail us out?"
Mm-hmm. Yep.
In 2008, the U.S. government contracted Blackrock to aid its recovery after the financial crisis of 2008. Why? Because of Larry Fink's longstanding relationships with senior government officials. He especially works closely with secretaries of the Treasury, and he was angling to be the Secretary of Treasury under Hillary Clinton if she got elected. That would have been really, really freaking interesting. And currently, there are 3 BlackRock executives that are very high up in economics and treasury in the Biden administration. They are not being recruited. I'll tell you right now, they come with the job.
Oh, yeah. Yeah,
you will have this guy in the White House.
Yeah, I mean, it's a predictive program. It's like you've seen it like in Hollywood and stuff, shows it all the time. It's like, here's what we're doing. We're going to fund you here, but guess what? For anybody that's never seen, new to the show, like I use Bob as my go-to thing. I always say Bob. So like Bob here, I'm going to help get you out here, but guess what? Bob is your new Treasury Secretary.
Yeah.
You're like, well, yeah, but I kind of wanted to put this in. Bob, you want my help? Bob is your new. You're like, yeah, and it just so happens that Bob is the CEO of one of these, he's one of these subsidiaries, and all of a sudden he's now in there. And you're like, how the hell did these guys get these positions? That's how. It's because they have, they're the power players.
So I suppose what RFK Jr. is doing with Shanahan is just a public version of what everybody's doing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's just he's not really. I mean, if there's one thing, he's not really hiding it. Everybody else tries to hide it. He's actually just straight out. I mean, he hasn't verbally uttered it, but you can just see. This is why she serves. Thing. It's like she's gonna be a great pick for me, but she's also gonna help me, and it's here in the open.
Yeah. And I just, who knows if it's going to happen. So some other things that you need to know. In December 2009, they purchased Barclays Global Investors and became the largest money management firm in the world, because Barclays was absolutely huge. In 2020, the Fed turned to BlackRock to help it purchase distressed securities in an echo of 2008. And Craig, I said to Tanya right at the start of the social experiment, as we were all sitting at home, and all these treasury bonds and all these securities were being bought up, I said to her, America just basically got bought. It just got fully bought in a matter of, right? And what they say, $500 billionaires were created during the social experiment.
Oh yeah.
So yeah. What does Charles here say about Maui? On the Maui works, if it didn't exist, then it probably does. Buying it after the contract is just good business. Yeah. I wasn't able to take that front organization and trace it back to any of these companies. So I can't say one way or another. Now, here's where, Craig, you touched on this. BlackRock is hugely committed to integrating environmental, social, and governance factors into its investment decisions. That's all these giant entrepreneurial, new age, the Yuval Hararis, the Palantir, the Peter Thiel, all these guys. Guys, follow Whitney Webb if you really want to know, cui bono,
What's going on? Yeah.
Follow the money. Yeah, she's done amazing amounts of stuff on that because this is her job. It's not Craig and I's job, obviously. This ties into the WEF and Klaus Schwab, science populism, the obsession with electric vehicles, and the UN social SDGs. So there you go. So I just want to hit, Craig, real quick. Larry Fink writes an open letter every year, which Jamie Dimon does it. The head of the Federal Reserve does it. They're sort of prognostications and thoughts. In a 2020 annual open letter, Fink announced environmental sustainability as a core goal for BlackRock's future investment decisions. He says that climate will become a driver of economics. So
that's
again,
true.
Yeah. He's not lying.
No, because that's been one of the old adage. If you want to see what it is, follow the money.
Yeah.
I mean, there's no way that anybody that's these proponents that's doing these things is truly has the planet in mind. I mean, Al Gore is a prime example. The man's making millions and millions off of this thing. He's not changing his lifestyle. So obviously he's not a crusader. You can see through the wolf in sheep's clothing. I mean, you can see right through it that this is all about
absolutely
those carbon credits. I mean, that's the biggest scam is the carbon credits.
Yeah, it's a means of control.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. You can't.
I can do whatever I want as long as I buy this paper that says I planted trees. The trees may or may not have ever been planted, but I got my carbon credit.
Right. 2022, 2 years later, he doubles down in his annual letter. Every company in every industry will be transformed by the transition to a net zero world. Okay, it's kind of hard to employ people and keep the pistons pumping, so to speak, when you're in a net zero world. But it's a good way to control people, though. 2022, as he's saying all this for 2 years, climate, he is named a top climate villain by The Guardian because BlackRock profits so much from deforestation. Yeah. He is a member, Craig, of the World Economic Forum Board of Trustees. I should just unplug my mic and drop it right now.
Yeah, that's the mic drop because that literally is how we, you did your play on words right up here. It's like you will own nothing and be happy about it. Klaus Schwab, WF, he's right there. I mean, they're connected.
There you go. And the last thing I want to mention. In 2024, of course, it became really huge news because BlackRock came out with an exchange-traded fund. You know them as ETFs for Bitcoin. Okay? Mm-hmm. They currently hold $18 billion in Bitcoin assets. At the end of this March, they own 252,011 Bitcoins from an available supply of 19.6 million in circulation. That 19.6 million is 93.56% of the total supply, which won't be fully mined until 2140. So I'm not going to give everybody a big crash course in Bitcoin, but they are set to become the largest holder of Bitcoin. Craig, that's the end for the idea of what Bitcoin was supposed to be. Sort of a barter system, a way to work outside the system where people could, assign values to these assets. And this is the beginning of the end for that. And that's why Jamie Dimon at JP Morgan Chase, they fronted this bull crap, which was the central bank digital currency, which they said to Congress, We don't really want to do this, so vote it down. It'll make you look really, really good. Just like when they voted down LifeLock and In-Q-Tel seeded all the social media companies, right? Each bank is going to have their own digital token. Well, they don't want this people mining in the basement bullshit. They want to control it. They want to use it. That's where the social credit score and all of that stuff comes in. So that's a really, really important point. They are just buying it up, tens of thousands of Bitcoin every day. And then I think they'll crush it. And Jamie Dimon will go, oh, well, that's dead, but we have this.
Yeah.
You know? They threw the book at Sam Bankman-Fried.
Oh, he was a useful idiot.
Yeah, that poor son of a bitch. That's what I was going to say.
I mean, like I said, I don't want to come off as, you know, like sympathetic, like this poor guy was used. No, he was a dirtbag. You know, same thing too. But he was used by his mom. Was a huge bundler for the Democrat Party. I mean, let's, you know, sorry if nobody likes it, but that's what it is. This is one of these things. She was the money that they were using. It was basically they were using this thing as a way of laundering funds into the campaign coffers for the Democrat Party. Yeah. So while this fraud was going on, there were some of the Democrat, you know, politicians that, you know, obviously, you know, you don't want blood money on your hands. So but there's other ones that, you know, you realize this was just a giant money scheme to funnel money into a political party. I mean, this should be Watergate-esque like scandal, but it's not. It's one of those things. I mean, with everything that's going on, people are just like, I mean, what's a few billion here and there now?
Right. And they got that all off the board because he was really. Sam Bankman-Fried, according to Whitney Webb, was setting up what was going to become the CBDC, the main digital currency. And they obviously set him up. I think, Craig, the same way they set up Tom DeLonge, right, to the Stars Academy. Yeah. Destined everybody, fed this poor SOB who's really genuinely interested in UFOs. I think he had an experience. I totally get it. And suddenly it's Podesta and it's Lou Elizondo and it's Chris Mellon and any day, guys, any day. Here he is on social media. Any day, guys, they're going to give me the smoking gun. Any day, guys, any day, guys. And they left him December a couple years ago. They just walked out on him and went back to the Beltway.
Yeah, like Straw Dog is talking about too. That's the Clinton Foundation that was supposed to help after the earthquakes in Haiti.
Yeah.
You know, that money, same thing. That money never went there. That money was funneled into different people, different things. That's what that's the same thing is. But kind of like back to what you were saying about DeLonge, it's kind of like what happened to Linda Moulton Howell. This is these things. These are done is you take somebody who they're on the right track. They're doing these things. But if you can feed them just that little bit and then they run with it, now everything else that they're talking about, you're like, oh, you mean the same person that did this? And then it basically is discredited complete. And that's what they do to some of these people, like these whistleblowers that come out. I've got this information on Blackrock, Blackstone, Vanguard. Well, if you get them to if you poison the well, everything else is tainted.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what they do.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
exactly right.
Yeah, that's kind of exactly what it is. Just as you get these things, you can easily hide stuff if you just get the people that might actually get something out, and you can trick them into running with something that's completely bogus. I mean, God, the name's failing me. The UFO community is that same one where the guy he just came out later
Richard
on.
Doty.
Yeah, Doty. Yeah, thanks. Yeah, it's the same way. It's just all you do. 90% of what he might have been saying might have been right, but everybody's just like, wait a minute. You know, and as soon as you do that, then everybody looks around and is like, oh crap, you know, and then it just makes everybody question everything.
He literally, Richard Doty literally drove someone insane. He gaslighted him so bad.
Yeah.
Drove the guy insane. Fed him all kind of fake information because the guy saw something he wasn't supposed to see in California. The guy was a real techie nerd. And they fed him so much information that they drove him insane.
Yeah, you went from having something that was credible to where now you're just you're a lunatic that nobody's going to listen to. And that's by design.
And they did it to Linda Moulton Howe. They did it to a lot of people, and they put shills in places. We're building a quilt here.
Unfortunately, Jaron, you do that without knowing you are.
Yeah.
That's one of the things. It's not on the card where it just says, "Hey, donate to here." It's going to go to this guy. It's not. It's not that. A lot of this is just something. It's like we're talking like Vanguard. A lot of stuff that's happening. This is just in your normal mutual funds. These are the things like when you go to H&R Block, H&R Block. When you go to, when you go to these investment places, Solomon Smith Bar. It doesn't matter who it is. You're putting your money in. It's going to these companies that use this stuff. There's not, you don't have a physical say in what Vanguard does with this money, but it's the same thing. You can say, well, I'm not going to do it. Well, you go to another fund. Well, guess what? They get bought by Vanguard. I mean, so what are you going to do? Just keep taking your money out or put it in a mattress? I mean, there's no way around this.
Right. That's exactly it. Put it in a coffee can and bury it in the yard.
Yeah.
Right. So thank you all for listening tonight. It's just another piece of our quilt, the 34th square in our quilt. Next week, I welcome back for the 4th time Reverend Michael Carter, my Reverend brother, good friend of Craig's as well. We're going to start by talking about his new book of collected sermons. He's a minister in the Universalist Unitarian Church. I read the book. I reviewed it. Very inspiring. So we'll get a little light into the darkness here, a little balance. And then we've agreed that the conversation will take us where it goes. So don't miss out. In 2 weeks, Craig and I are going to do the mysterious rise and continued rise of Barack Obama. Someone put up a quote, our friend Chad Pitt from Rahm Emanuel. Can't talk about Obama without talking about Rahm Emanuel.
Never let a good crisis go to waste.
Now he went to Chicago to be mayor and thought he was going to test, police states and martial law, and it didn't quite work out that way. But no. Chicago is much worse off for his mayoral bid. 2 weeks after that, Craig, we are going to do transhumanism and Yuval Harari. And 2 weeks after that, we will have a very big announcement for you guys while we're talking about Agenda 30.
2030.
Yeah.
Yep. That's and this, and this is kind of this topic right here. This is one of the pieces with 2030, because this is, if you actually look into it, part of that is just the restructuring of what people own, how they live. Notice this gets into a lot of stuff. I mean, everything. You'll see why the push for electric vehicles ties right into 2030.
Yeah. And it's these ESGs and SDGUN, Sustainable Development Goals. It came back into my head. It's basically, don't let a good crisis go to waste. Oh, the earth is warming a little. How can we manipulate this? Yeah. I have to thank Frank Jacobs, who you've had him on your show, and now Frank and I have become friends. I really have to thank Frank for this idea of this science populism.
Yeah, I think Mark Eddy.
Out these guys.
Mark Eddy was the one that did that.
Oh, hooked you guys up?
Yeah.
Very cool.
Goes back to the Eddy.
Frank is a very smart guy. So, all right, guys, have a really, really great day. Oh, this is the last thing I want to say. Monday is a total eclipse. Tanya and I are lucky enough. We lived in North Carolina in 2017. We were in the path of, I hate this word totality. I just do. I don't know. And the total solar eclipse. There's crazy crap with Salem and Nineveh and New Madrid fault line.
You're going to have this really cool show where everything's going to get dark. You're going to see a nice little glowing ring, and then it's going to get bright again.
Yeah, don't look directly at it.
I'm in the camp. There's nothing going to happen. It's just we're going to see this thing that happens all the time. Next year there's 2. I said
really?
Next year, in the next 2 years, there's going to be 2 total solar eclipses.
Nice. Very nice.
So
there you go. So it's not even becoming that. So CERN is going to fire up that day. That's been confirmed, because I was skeptical of that. NASA is launching 3 rockets, and they want to study. 2017, nothing happened. No National Guard, no food, gas warnings. It's, it's real stupid. I think it's more social experiment, Craig, because if they are going to launch a false flag, they're going to do it in the darkness, not in the darkness of a total eclipse. They're going to do it in the real darkness. One day we're all going to be going about our stupid lives trying to just make ends meet and stay ahead of the curve, and something huge is going to happen. Tied to nothing, no prophecy. That's the way you do it.
Yep, exactly.
So, anyway, yep.
Well, everybody, thanks for watching. Appreciate it. We'll see you next one on the 35.
Yeah. Ooh, the mysterious rise and continued rise of Barack Hussein Obama.
Yeah, that'll be a good one. I think there's going to be a lot of information that I think a lot of people aren't aware of, which will be a surprise.
That's what we're going to try to do. And Craig, before I hit the end button, I'm not interested in the meth, in the he stuff.
Oh yeah, no,
or the birther stuff. I want to talk about power on the throne.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so no clickbait on that one, folks. Sorry. Okay, peace.